Back to Mornings with Zerlina.
Welcome back to Mornings with Zerlina. Back with us, Congresswoman Jennifer McClellan of Virginia's 4th District. Good morning, Congresswoman. Thank you so much for being back.
Good morning.
So we marked not a good anniversary, the anniversary of the Dobbs decision just last week. It's been 3 years since that decision. Can you talk just about the impact of that decision and reflect on what has happened over the course of the last 3 years?
Well, unfortunately, it's been in some ways worse than we thought. Now over 40% of women of reproductive age live in a state with either an outright ban or extreme restrictions that are effectively a ban. And we have seen women die as a result because hospitals are afraid to provide care when a woman is in the middle of a miscarriage until she's septic or they think she's, close enough to her life being in danger, and often they miscalculate. We've seen more women being prosecuted for miscarriages, and it's it is also no surprise that those states that have bans or extreme restrictions also are the top of the list for maternal mortality, also preterm birth or infant mortality. So again, it shows what happens when politicians insert themselves into the profoundly personal decisions between pregnant patients and their doctors.
I think that when you talk about prosecution for miscarriage, right? That's something that I remember before the Dobbs decision. I think it was like right when Brett Kavanaugh was going through the confirmation process before being a member of the Supreme Court. And I remember chatting with Chelsea Clinton and Nancy Northup. And I asked that question. I was like, if, Roe versus Wade is overturned, are we going to see women who are experiencing miscarriages prosecuted, like in parts of Latin America where abortion is legal? And I remember when I asked the question, in a lot of ways, I mean, it was a live audience event, and some of the folks in the audience were like, oh my gosh, like what? And I remember even asking the question, it just sounded like something that was not realistic in terms of what was possible in the United States of America. But now in 2025, we're literally living through that. And I still think that people are unaware of the fact that there are women who are experiencing miscarriage, which is common, being prosecuted for that.
That's exactly right. We saw a prosecutor in West Virginia warning that women could face prosecutions for miscarriage in June of 2025. He said this on national television, and it's not only are women who are having miscarriages being investigated and or prosecuted, but you see hospitals and providers who fear they will be prosecuted if they provide the treatment they feel is necessary in an emergency. And that is not something I ever thought I would see in the United States. And again, that's the only. It is what happens when politicians, most of whom are men older than childbearing years, right, inserting themselves in decisions that they know nothing about.
One of the other things that I think has happened just in the last couple of months, so we're talking about the 3-year anniversary of Dobbs, but just in the last couple of months, there have been so many moves by this administration, taking us towards authoritarianism, autocracy, dictatorship. You can label it what you want. And I feel like the abortion issue hasn't received as much attention as it was getting before the election, but things have just gotten worse. So can you talk a bit about, some of the stories and the cases that you've been following just in the past couple of months that everyone listening needs to know about? Because it's not as if the abortion issue has, we solved it or something. Like it's just been worse. It's just maybe getting less attention than ICE raids and immigration.
Not only has it gotten worse, and I'll come to the stories in a minute, but the Republicans in Congress and across the states aren't done legislating it. So what hasn't gotten a lot of attention in this big ugly bill that's before the Senate right now are two abortion related provisions. One defunds Planned Parenthood, which, federal funding is not used for abortion, but they do provide a whole lot of other full range of reproductive and preventative care, cancer screenings, and the like. And we just saw the Supreme Court this week use a state ban on funding for Planned Parenthood to further erode the Civil Rights Act, where you saw a patient in South Carolina sue, and Planned Parenthood sue South Carolina for defunding Planned Parenthood. And the Supreme Court said, well, the Civil Rights Acts don't provide a private right of action per se, and neither does Medicaid. So now that's one more in a broader attack against individuals trying to protect their rights under in the courts. And then, as part of the Republicans' effort to completely undermine and quietly repeal the Affordable Care Act, they have said, insurance plans that you buy under Obamacare or the healthcare exchanges cannot cover abortion, even if you're paying for those services yourself. So now, if you receive your health insurance from Medicaid or the Affordable Care Act, you're very, very limited in your ability to use your insurance to pay for abortion. And that's particularly bad in miscarriage cases where, again, is the life of the mother close enough to death? But Medicaid also, and federal funding, because of the Hyde Amendment, doesn't cover abortions in the case of fetal demise or if you have, severe fetal anomaly. So you have these very sad cases of, I'll take federal employees, and I had a number who have shared their stories with me, who had a pregnancy that went horribly wrong, that the doctor said, we need to terminate, or they decided to terminate. And because that doesn't fit in the narrow exceptions of the Hyde Amendment, their health insurance couldn't cover it. So when your health insurance doesn't cover something, the hospital won't provide it. And a lot of providers won't provide it. It's usually clinics like Planned Parenthood that will provide it, because they're less likely to say, their lawyers are less likely to say, well, this might get us sued. And so it is just a further erosion, not only of our rights, but our access to the full breadth of healthcare that women need in this country. And it is leading to more women dying, or more preterm births, or more infant mortality. Because again, in these cases, as soon as that baby is born, I had one woman tell me, as soon as they cut the umbilical cord, she watched her baby die or suffocate. So again, these are not decisions that should be made in Washington or in state capitals. They should be made in the exam room between a doctor and their patient.
I know a lot of people listening right now probably feel overwhelmed by so much of the bad news that we're consuming every single day. How are you staying grounded on a day in and day out basis in a moment like this one? Because I feel like often I feel it too. I feel powerless against so much bad that's going on.
There are sort of four rules I have. I learned how to meditate last year, and I'm glad I did because
Me too.
That helps a lot, and I strongly encourage people to check it out. My three rules are: put your own mask on first. So whatever it is you need to do to take care of yourself, whether it's meditate or watch trash TV or whatever, take that time. Put the phone down. Don't watch the news 24/7. Don't doom scroll. Two, I focus on what I can control and frankly trust God to take care of the rest. But there is enough that I can control that at least fills my day. So I don't have
Mhm.
time to doom scroll or freak out. And then three, our family mantra is get some joy in there because my daughter in the middle of COVID when she was 4 years old and thought she was going to be a YouTube star, recorded a little video on my phone about how hard COVID is, but then she ended it with get some joy in there. And I'm like, out of the mouths of babes, right? It's find your joy and find what you're grateful for. And for me, it's the fact that I did not die giving birth to her and
Yeah.
that she and my son and my husband are healthy. And I am in a job that allows me to do something. I may not be able to control a lot, but I can be a voice for people who don't have a voice and who do feel overwhelmed.
I think that's the perfect message for this morning. I mean, I feel similarly in that I have a microphone that I can turn on every single day and I can listen to people all over the country, listen to their concerns, be a space for them to express what is bothering them, what they're frustrated by, what they're angry about. And I can also stick to the facts, speak truth to power using
Mhm.
this microphone. But I also, like you, am very intentional about finding joy. I do not play about my joy, and I also learned how to meditate just last year as well. So, I was just saying in the last mental health segment that the folks who have been meditating for like thousands of years, like they were onto something. There's a reason why
Yeah.
they have been doing this for longer than any of us have been alive because it works.
Yes.
And it's all about the brain and science. So I think if you're finding the small pockets of joy, turning off the news, and being very intentional about how you consume it and
Yeah.
when you stop,
Yep.
and then meditate and find the joy every single day. That's I think a good recipe for navigating a moment like this one. I would also say too, and I know you agree with this, it's like do what you can, right? I mean, like right now, it's call your senators because this bill it hasn't been passed yet, right? We're talking about all
Yeah.
of the horrible things in it, but it has not become the law yet, and it's not. There's no guarantee that it will, right? When we saw John McCain put his thumb down, that nobody knew was going to happen in that moment, but that was what led up to that was a lot of public pressure.
That's right.
And so I think in this particular moment where we still do have the ability to put pressure on some of these senators who don't want to vote for this bill,
Well,
and who, yeah, go
I
ahead.
would add, keep the pressure on your House members because
Yes,
whatever they pass is coming back to us.
that's right. That's right. Very, very important point as well. So I told everybody this morning, call your senators, but also your representative in the Congress. Make sure that you're doing that this week. If you want to call me in a complaint, I'm going to ask you first, did you call your representatives? Like that's the first question I'm going to ask for all the folks who are listening at home. Congresswoman Jennifer McClellan, thank you so much for being back with us. Come back anytime.